I believe spirit activities should be an SES tradition because they relieve they relieve students from their everyday stress, and it brings the class together, and it also interacts with other classes.
I agree with Colin, but I think homecoming, that's one thing that student council's done really well. And I've been in school for quite a while, and I've been to every single one. And like spirit activities, so, homecoming brings all the classes together, brings the parents in, and it's just a great feeling to see SES beat another school or something.
Well, personally, those are both great answers, but in my opinion, I would have to say there's the dances that we have during the third quarter pep rally because they're a nice break because it's a lot of fun to watch each of the classes try to put together a great team of even if not the best dancers, the most amusing performance, and it just makes for a lot of good fun and some friendly competition.
I agree with all of them, but out of all three, I mostly agree with all the activities in the prep rallies and spirit activities. But in order to keep them a tradition, I think that we need to make a lot of changes to them so they don't just attract the outgoing students, but they also attract a larger majority of our students. And that way they can stay a tradition.
I think that the newest activity that was implemented this year that should be SAS tradition is Survivor, because I feel like there was a lot of participation, not only with the students, but with the faculty, and that brings together like a lot of students. Like you wouldn't expect to be hanging out with some of the people you are teamed up with, and I feel like that's a really good experience because everybody gets to know each other, and you get to know other people from other grades as well.
I also think that homecoming is one thing that we should really keep as a tradition because it's the first really big event of the year, and it does a really good job in bringing the SES community together as a whole. And on the student council aspect of it, it does a really great job in teaching new student council representatives how to plan an event this big and also organize and know what and what not to do for future events throughout the year.
For me, I could definitely see Survivor becoming a part of SES tradition because although it was new this year, the event was not only ambitious in scale, but was also able to get a large audience and a different audience than other events I've seen. And it really showed that if Stuco is willing to implement an idea that's fundamentally creative and new, then students in SES will be more than willing to take their part so long as Stuco fills theirs.
I think the most important tradition of SAS culture is the competitive nature of the class spirit points, because it's the only school I've seen so far which has classes interacting at such a rate that everyone knows each other, and it's in a fun competitive way, not like I hate you competitive, which really brings the school together rather than tears it apart.
If you can hold the mic for a second. Okay, the next question is, what role in SAS life do you feel student council should play? And we're actually going to start with Rashab on this. So the question again is, what role in SAS life do you feel student council should play?
Well, I think student council is really good at keeping all the classes together in a way that they all interact without it getting over the top violent or derogatory. So student council should maintain competitive nature and foster a unity within each class itself.
Well, fundamentally, student council should always try to offer events and activities that cater to different students' interests and tastes as an opportunity for escape, leisure, and meeting new people. However, at the same time, student council's role as a student advocacy group should also be more prominent and relevant to students. They should feel like they have the ability to voice their opinions, say in student forum, and should feel comfortable enough to and be able to go up to their student council representatives to voice their own opinions too.
I feel like our high school community is always constantly focused on academics, and especially for upperclassmen, it can consume a large portion of their lives. So I believe that student council should also be in charge of relieving that stress and bringing back the aspect of also enjoying high school by planning events to keep their minds off it for a time.
I agree with all the other statements that everybody else has said, and I also want to include that I feel that student council, not only should they be a student advocacy group or relieving stress, but I think that they should be the people that like other students can not really like look up to, but they can like trust in their decisions on what to do for the school, and they should be able to like comfortably talk to everybody in student council.
I definitely agree with what Chelsea just said, and with Pamela about what she said about having an outlet for students to have fun, because at this school we are very grade oriented and grade obsessed, and students often forget how to be a kid sometimes, and sometimes they just need to have fun, and StuCog is a great outlet for that because it is incorporated in school hours, so then students have a way to like put their work aside and just have fun.
Well, specifically for executive council, I believe that its main function is to represent the whole school's needs and interests. So say there was an issue that came up that students had, any of them should be able to feel comfortable enough to come to a member of executive council, and they would convey that to administration, to Dr. Stewart, or something like that. Now, that being said, it's not only to be like ambassadors for all the students, but also to make sure that there's an ongoing spirit and this kind of unity within the school that they should promote, and they should do activities and outlets, as Elizabeth mentioned, to work towards this.
I totally agree with Sacheth. It's basically like the executive council is in charge of everyone ahead, and they should be the people that they come to and help out. And in high school, there's a lot of problems, like you got the SATs, the PSATs, and you have your GPAs and APs you all got to take care of. And I believe that the executive council and all the other councils are in charge of helping people enjoy school, not just be like, oh, I have to go to school today, I have a math test. Should be like, yes, I'm coming to school today, there's going to be a pep rally or something fun to do, and school will be fun on top of studying and being a nice day.
Well, I believe student council should respond to the wants of the student community, as Pamela said, relieving stress through spirit activities or holding events such as the dances, and really just bringing the school together.
Pass it back to Alex. For this next question, if you could, it's now about 2 minutes into the debate, if you could mention your name before, so people who might have checked in later and watching will know again who you are. Okay, so the next question we're going to look at is, based on what criteria should students vote for a student council representative? And we're going to go from Alex to Sacheth, and then we're going to go, actually we'll go Alex this way to Callum, and we'll go back to Sacheth and go this way. Okay, so Alex, again, the question to you is, based on what criteria should students vote for a student council representative? Alex?
So I'm Alex Bion, and representatives that they can feel comfortable and connect to. A student council shouldn't feel like a foreign entity. And at the same time, representatives should be willing and ready to put the hours of background work into events and work, and they should also be open to and welcoming to other students' ideas and opinions.
I believe that my name is Piyush Tower. As this year has changed quite a bit for the executive council and all the other councils, I think that a person that's getting chosen should be something that they're good at. Like for treasurer, should be some guy who loves math, loves counting, and who's very outgoing and something that he can help out with. And for a communication director, like freshman year when I was here, Nicky Muller, he was very outgoing and he was someone perfect for the job and something that's really good. But that's what I believe, that people that should be chosen for the student council or executive council should be people that are outgoing, people nice, people that people can come up to.
Hi, my name is Rashad Baneja. I think a student council member should have a blend of creativity and a sense of down-to-earthness so that people can approach them, whereas at the same time they can set up events that are unique and make people appreciate the SAS culture and realize what an amazing school it is.
My name is Callum Nesbitt, and I believe a student council member should be one that is willing to be out there, very organized, and also not just knowing what's going on in a small group of students, but a large group, a grade, or even the whole school, and somebody who you're very comfortable with.
Back over to Sacheth, please.
I personally don't think that a student council has to be a student council. Sacheth, and I personally don't believe that a student council representative has to be the most talented, the most athletic, the most funny person. But I think it's the person that you know will do whatever he or she can to make your year better. It's the one that will put in the hours, that will put in the time, that actually cares about student council enough to go out there and maybe make themselves look like an idiot just to promote spirit and to make sure that your school year is better.
I'm Pamela Chan, and I believe that anyone running for student council should be willing to put themselves out there at any situation, and also he or she should be well acquainted with the majority of friend groups in their grade so that they can have enough connections and social pool to make a difference. And lastly, most importantly, that person should be extremely dedicated to student council and put in 100% into everything they do. I'm Pamela Chan, and I believe that anyone running for student council should be willing to put themselves out there at any situation, and also he or she should be well acquainted with the majority of friend groups in their grade so that they can have enough connections and social pool to make a difference. And lastly, most importantly, that person should be extremely dedicated to student council and put in 100% into everything they do.
Sort of what like Pamela said, I believe that a candidate in student council needs to appeal not to just one portion of the student body, but to the whole student body. And likewise, they need to have their whole heart into into student council instead of dividing their time between different organizations, because if they do that, they're not doing just injustice to student council, but they're also doing it to all the other organizations they're a part of.
Okay, hi, I'm Chelsea. I feel that the criteria that somebody should be elected into student council is that they have to be knowledgeable of what's going on in school. Like, they can't always be wondering what the events are coming up next. They should know ahead of time. And I also believe that, like Pamela and Elizabeth said, that they need to be able to communicate with a very large group of people in their grade. And for executive council, they should be able to be very approachable, because as a senior next year, I want like freshmen to come up to me and talk to me, because I don't want to seem like an intimidating person. And yeah.
Okay, now if you give it to Pamela, now we're going to head to the part where it's more of a debate. So what'll happen is I will call on one person to read the first question. Okay, now there's a chance that my voice isn't being heard. So if you could read the question, I'll have that person then answer it. And if someone else would like to have a different take, then you can. If you don't have a different take, we'll just move on to a different question. Okay, so Pamela, your first question will be talking about an epidemic of negative comments started surfacing on an online website. What should be the role of student council? So if you could repeat that into the microphone, the question first, and then your response.
What would be your role in student council if an epidemic of negative comments started surfacing on an online website like Formspring? Well, I personally believe that if a StuCo member notices these negative comments happening on an online website, and someone's really being bullied and feeling extremely down about themselves, we as student council members should step in and try to put out the fire by either telling the bully to stop, or if it really gets out of hand, then telling an admin or a parent to help make the situation better. And most importantly, I think we really should, as student council members, talk to the person being bullied and tell them that this happens to a lot of people and that they should just keep their head up.
Okay. Anyone else would like to respond with a different point to that topic, or if there's no one who would like to raise their hand, I will go to the next question. Order of shot, please.
I think in the case of an epidemic of negative comments on sites such as Formspring, should take a systematic approach in which first you address it over a public announcement, just in general, to try and see if that'll cool it over. If it still continues to get out of hand, then escalate it another step, send an email out to parents so that they can address their own kids and make sure that they're doing it. And also, before any of this, make sure that such sites are blocked from the school network so that at least it's not going on at school and the frequency goes down.
Okay. Now, you can respond to either comment by Pamela or Rashad, or come with a new point on the issue of student council reaction to Formspring negative comments. Anyone would like to interject? Kedesacha, please.
This is back to Rashab's point. Personally, I don't think getting the parents involved is necessarily the best idea, although it's a very viable option, because in life we aren't going to always have our parents around, and the problems that we deal with today are going to come up later in life. So I think we should learn about dealing with them now. And as Pamela mentioned, I think it's a more reasonable idea to try to attack it at the source and look at the student who maybe has the Formspring, and then if that's not an option, then to try to maybe explore the other approaches of a mass email, but not to the parents, but more to the students and address them directly.
Okay, over to Elizabeth, please. Elizabeth, which of these questions would you like to respond to?
The next one.
Okay, could you please ask the question and respond to it?
Okay. A friend of yours on student council stopped attending meetings. Okay, well, first of all, how I would address the situation is I would go talk to them personally, because you never know what's going on in a person's life and if they might be extremely stressed. And if they were extremely stressed, I would let them know that I'm always here to talk and I'd always be willing to help them. But I would let them know that they did make a commitment to student council and they need to fulfill that commitment. And if they just weren't going to meetings because they didn't want to, then I would tell them that you're not being fair to student council and you need to either go talk to the sponsors or you need to change your attitude or you just need to drop student council.
Okay. Anyone like to respond to that question? Or we can move on to a different question. Okay, Alex, please.
Well, I feel as he or she is a friend, we should both feel comfortable enough to talk to each other openly about this, especially if we are expected to work together in student council. At the same time, there must be an element of structure and accountability for the student council representatives, and if he or she needs to be reminded that, then they do.
Would you like to respond to other comments on this issue? Okay, please pass it over to Chelsea. Chelsea, is there a specific topic you would like to speak to?
I would like to talk about the morning show one.
Okay, what was the prompt?
The prompt is, what would be your role in student council if teachers refuse to show the morning show to their classes? I feel that to solve this problem and issue is to first speak to the teacher yourself. Like, you can go up to them after class and personally speak to them, because I feel that in SAS, the teacher to student relationship is not very it's not restricted. Yeah, I feel like you're able to talk to the teachers. So by communicating to the teacher that morning show is very important to the student body, they need to know what's going on. Like I said before, executive council needs to know what's going on with the school, and not only executive council, but the student body as a whole. I think you could convince the teacher to allow that.
Comment on this issue. Okay, hold on a second. Anyone else? Okay, Elizabeth.
I completely agree with what Chelsea said, but sometimes the morning show can be really long and it has unnecessary ads in the beginning and the end, and sometimes it's confusing as to when the important information is coming. Of course, it's in the middle, but sometimes they have a funny YouTube video and then they have a thing advertising an event at school. And so teachers sometimes get confused as to when to turn it off, and especially if it's cutting into their class time, I think teachers should have a right to turn it off at that point.
Other thoughts on the issue of morning show? Okay, Sasha?
This is to Elizabeth's point. I know for a fact that the first class is extended by 5 minutes for the sole purpose that the morning show can be shown. And I think it's kind of important because, sometimes when I come to school, I'm not exactly in the best of mood. And seeing a video like that kind of makes my day. And then after that, when the information comes on, I'm awake and I'm ready for that. And then it prepares me for class because it's given me something to be attentive to as a precursor to class.
Would you like to respond to any comments made on this issue? Please diffuse. Okay, is there a specific topic of the remaining ones you would like to speak to? Could you make sure it's not on his background comments?
No, any questions?
Okay. So what would be the role of student council if there was a natural disaster that hits a Southeast Asian country and they have a huge need of aid? What should be the role of student council in that situation? You could kind of repeat the question.
What would be the role of student council if a natural disaster hits a Southeast Asian country and they're desperately in need of aid? My name is Piyush Tawar, and I believe that executive council or any council, if a disaster happens, they should get the word out, let the whole school know about it, see what they can do. This has happened before, and not really a disaster, but things have happened, and we've gotten this whole group of money. We collected all this money, and we had this whole poster out by the high school wall and stuff, and it was something good. And I agree that's something we would do: get some money out and get the word out and let people know what's happening. And that happens.
Respond to that comment. Okay, I'm looking at. Go to Alex, please.
Alex, Bjorn. And student council should always recognize its role in school and to try to not intrude on others. In this case, the service council and many service clubs are willing and able to raise funds, awareness, and aid in new and creative ways for disasters. So in this case, the role of student council would be to help out in any way possible. And one of these ways is to first contact the leaders of the service clubs and the service council to see if we can try to better coordinate all of these clubs together because they're willing to and able to raise funds. So how can we make this better?
Do we have a new comment to bring up or a response? Okay, Pamela?
I feel like the more the better for any of these natural disasters. And Student Council, along with any other service club, has the power to hold fundraisers and spread awareness about the situation, which will hopefully help the people in need.
Okay, over to Callum, please. We're going to move on to a new topic. I'm going to combine two questions here.
All right.
So let's just say that you've noticed as a school that social interaction is becoming very negative. People are either hanging out based on their ethnicity alone, or just based on their social group, or solely based on academic group, or they're just watching videos all day long. So the overall question is, what would you do as student council if you notice that the school as a whole is no longer interacting? It seems like it's just not a place where people are hanging out and enjoying themselves.
First of all, I would talk to my members in my council, and if we are a very diverse group, hopefully we will be able, in each of our groups, to spread out and involve more people. I'd also crank up the spirit activities and hold different activities to get other kids involved, socializing with other groups, and hope that they will all spread out.
Okay. Anyone have a response to that? The question again, if you could, the next person also, if you could repeat the question, which is, what would you do if you saw that people are interacting in a either apathetic way or not a proactive way with each other? You're starting to see that people are just not even finding more with each other. Semi-repeat the question. You can reword it the way you'd like to reword it for yourself.
The question is, what is the role of student council when the whole student body seems very apathetic and divided? Okay. My solution to this, like I said before, that I believe that Survivor should become a tradition because that really does bring together the diverse groups. Like when you sign up to be in Survivor, you sign up as a team, but then your team is integrated with another team, and that like kind of forces you to be able to work together. And I feel that Survivor helps make grades and different types of groups of people like integrate.
To add on, I do believe that Survivor is a great activity, but I believe that the activities that Student Council has right now is only pretty much focused to a certain group, and that's typically the athletic and the outgoing ones. And if we really want to unite the whole student body and we want everyone to come together, then we need to start having activities that address people from different groups that aren't the athletes, that don't get IASA's acknowledgement, like the artists and the musicians. Like, why not have a battle of the bands contest between grades?
Anyone else like to respond to that question? Alex? Pamela, did you want to?
Yeah. On to Elizabeth's point, we have had, SES Got Talent for the artists, and also the online Wikipedia thing that we had in the beginning of the year. So just to point that out.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
The question is, I guess Chelsea said it really well. It's what would you do if, Chelsea?
What would student council do if the whole student body seemed apathetic and divided?
Well, I guess the first thing to notice we should do is realize why people are doing this. And if it's because they feel like in their own choice that they want to hang out with people that they can identify and feel comfortable with because that's what we naturally do, then that in its own right should be respected. But at the same time, we should also be aware that you can always find some kind of common interest and some kind of common merit with someone outside of your regular group. And it's these kind of opportunities that needs to be offered by Stuco, because once these opportunities are given to people, then they'll find in their own right that they can take it up and try it themselves.
Okay. Could you please give it to Rashab? Rashab, if you could just, in your last thing, this will be the last one, if you could just invite people next week to we're going to explain that next week we'll be having a whole school assembly, and then we'll be having elections next week, and just let the people on the camera know that. Next week we're having an assembly, and then we'll have elections.
Next week is our assembly, and we will have elections just for you.